My name is Suzanne Reeve. I'm a teacher. I live up in Hoo, out at Plymstock. I've got two huge German Shepherd dogs, so I took them out on the 9th of September, not thinking anything awful would happen, and it did actually. So I went out without my mobile phone. I should have taken a mobile phone, but hindsight is a wonderful thing. I fell over and I broke my arm here. I only thought I had broken my arm, and when I went to pick myself up, I then realised that in fact I'd broken every single bone in the ankle. So as I picked myself up, I went to put my weight on and I thought, oh, that's not good. As I looked down, the ankle was 140 degrees facing me. I could see it was bad because one of the bones had splintered and was about to protrude through the wound or the skin, which would have caused an open wound. So I think adrenaline took over really. So within 120 seconds, I would say probably 100 seconds, I'd quickly tuck out my shoelaces of my trainers, and I managed, being in the woodlands, I managed to reach over that way for a splint, over that way for a splint, quickly put the splints together, and then wrapped my leg. Well, I had to obviously twist it from the 140 degrees back. I think it helped a lot with all three bones being broken because it did enable me to move it, and then I splintered it. Did it hurt? Not really. Adrenaline had kicked in. This hurt, and I just remember saying to myself, you know, as I was trying to splint it and get the tension, suck it up, really, which is what I did. I think I was in the woodlands for about 15 minutes without anybody walking by. Then a gentleman came from the left-hand side of the path. I said, excuse me, I said, could you please help me? I've broken my ankle and my arm. And he literally walked off, which is really quite upsetting. I had to wait then another 10 minutes for another gentleman that came from this direction. He then came, and then I called out and said, I've broken my ankle and my wrist, could you please get help for me? And he then walked off. That was the first time that I cried, actually. That was the first time that I did cry, because I just thought there's two people that have come near me and literally walked off and left me, something that I would never thought anyone would actually do. About another 10 minutes later, I'm obviously panicking by this stage, thinking, well, I've now been in the woods for 25 minutes, no one's walked by. I was incredibly lucky. An older lady walked by, or she came towards me, but she's got a small dog. And I said to her, she tried helping me initially because, but nothing could be done. So I then asked her if she could go to my home to get my partner, Darren, to come out and help me. So what an amazing lady. She came along, and it's really down to her, I think, as well. And then I say it's down to her because I was incredibly lucky, because obviously Tony came along, and really without Tony, I don't think, I would have been able to have got through it properly. We were singing, and he was such a happy, such a brilliant person. And what should have been a really bad night, actually, dare I say it, turned into an absolutely amazing night. We were singing Ging Gang Goolie, thinking we were around a campfire, asking if I'm in the Girl Guides. This is probably why I've managed to do what I did, splint my foot. So it was a really good night, and I learned a lot, and I've got an awful lot of thanks to Tony as well for everything that he did. And thank you, Tony.
Yeah, so I got called, I saw this case on the computer. We've got access to all the ambulance records. So I offered to go, eventually found the place, which wasn't easy. And I was walking through the woods wondering if I was in the right place, when suddenly this beach trolley turns up with Suzanne sort of all out in it. And they just got to some really big roots in the forest floor, which the beach trolley wasn't going to get over. So we made that our camp, really. And I was just amazed that she'd done such a fantastic job of splinting her ankle, which must have been absolute agony. But it was such a good job that I checked the nerves and I checked the circulation, and that was all fine. So I didn't need to change the splint. We just left the splint on. We gave her a sling for her arm, gave her some intravenous, first of all, an inhaled painkiller, which was very effective. And then later, as that started to wear off, we put a drip in and gave her some intravenous strong painkiller, which took away the pain and gave her a beautiful singing voice. And then we had quite a long wait because ambulances are quite hard to come by at the moment. So we were there for a couple of hours in the wood as it was getting dark, and we were talking about having a campfire and maybe toasting some marshmallows. But actually, you know, as Suzanne said, what could have been a really bad incident was almost enjoyable, mate, wasn't it?
It was,
We
very much
had a good
so.
time. We won't forget it in a hurry.
No,
That's for
absolutely
sure.
not. Never forget it.
I first got alerted with a knock at the door, and this lovely lady stood at the door, and she said, "Are you Darren?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Your wife has had an accident in the woods." And of course I thought, oh God, what's she done? I thought, she slipped over or something. Little did I know that when I eventually got there, she'd actually broken her ankle and she'd broken her wrist, and she was unable to move. And I thought to myself, how the hell are we ever going to get her out of the woods? And so Sue came up with the idea, go down and get the trolley and bring it back, the beach trolley, which was buried in the back of the shed. So I was frantically trying to get the beach trolley out of the shed. Went back up with it, and somehow we managed to get her from the top end of the woods by a drag and a push, down over, down through the valley, and we eventually got her down to where Tony came along and actually found us. And we couldn't get any further. And it was just by some miracle that it wasn't raining and the weather had really held up, and we managed to actually do it.
Yeah.
But honestly, can I just say, I can't believe that these people actually walked away and didn't help her. And I'd really, really like to thank the lady that did actually come down and alerted me, because to be honest, say when she goes for a walk with dogs, she can be gone hours. So if she'd been gone 2 or 3 hours, I wouldn't have realised anything was actually up. And she still would have been up there, waiting. So yeah, a big thank you actually goes out to that lady. And to Tony, because Tony was absolutely fantastic. He really, really was. I dread to think what had happened, or what would have happened, if Tony had not picked up that call.
Yeah.
So a big thank you to
100%.
Tony.